people approach spiritual life and they think of it like an art, right? This kind of beautiful tapestry that's being woven together, and you're kind of figuring out what's happening on that adventurous journey. It's very beautiful, very nice narrative experience. And some people, they look at spiritual life and they look at it as more of a science than an art. You know, a process, a theory, which is explained, it's experimented, as in you practice in your own life, you observe what happens, and then you note down the conclusions, right? And then they iterate that process. Very similar to the scientific method. And they really like to work that way. And the majority of us, we're not very clearly on either side. You know, some people have leanings, proclivities here and there, but it's fair to say the most, like, as human beings, we're somewhere in the middle between them. On that spectrum, you might be crazy on one side or completely on the other, but it probably follows some kind of normal distribution. And I think that's quite a fascinating thing. One of the best things about spiritual life is that it accommodates to everyone in their own ways. Right? The way that I look at spiritual life might not be the same way that you're going to look at it. And even within such a broad generalization, it's stated in Shastra, the scriptures, Mundhe Mundhe Jagat Bhinna. Every person sees the world differently. No two people, even though they might follow the same process, they might be doing the same things, they might love the same things, they might not think the same, even after all of that. And the beauty of spiritual life is that it really has this focus on your individual nature being utilized, everyone reaching their own potential. There's a story of a boy that once had to write an exam. How many of you like writing exams? Huh? Just me? Okay, Shubho as well. Okay, so not many of you like writing exams. That's fine, I won't say anything. There was a boy that was going to an exam and he didn't like writing, giving exams. It's not something he enjoyed, he found it quite stressful. But what he did was he decided, I'm going to sit next to the smartest kid in class. Because if I sit next to the smartest guy in class, I might be able to have a quick look over at the paper and I might be able to write their answers down. Right? And so he sat next to the smartest guy in class. There was that seat free. He pulls out the seat, he sits down, he's got sweaty palms, but he's actually feeling quite happy. He's like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be able to pass now. Because I'm just going to copy up him. And throughout the exam, you know, the invigilator's walking up and down the exam hall. He's, you know, every time the invigilator comes, he's just back on his own work, making sure that, you know, he's really studiously thinking, and on occasion his eyes wander. And somehow or other, he manages to copy the entire test from the other person. You're thinking, okay, he's probably going to do really well. He gets the exam paper back, and he fails. And he's confused. He's like, I literally copied off the other guy, right? This is favoritism. He's winning and I'm not, right? He's passed. He's done so well on his exam and I've done so bad. But what he didn't realize, what did he not realize? Go on. Did you get it? Go on. Yeah. Every person had a different test. And so sometimes in life what we do is we like to compare with others. Ramesh is doing this, I'm only doing that, you know. Naman's doing this, I'm doing that, I'm way better than him, he's losing. But everyone has a different paper. Every individual has a different life story. And so everyone's success and failure is actually different. Now then you might say, oh, are you saying that comparison is not at all important? Is it not, you know, relevant to compare? What would you say? Should we have some level of comparison? Is comparison an evil that we should completely avoid? It's an open-ended question. There's no right or wrong answer, as stated earlier. What do you think?
I think we should have some level of comparison.
Why?
Because in that way we can see like what we can improve about ourselves.
Okay, so if you compare positively with others, you can look at yourself and I can look at you and I can think, he's amazing, right? In this is a really good quality, I can implement that, okay? So what kind of comparison should we avoid? It's not a trick question.
I have the comparison.
Unhealthy. You can elaborate.
Like saying that, oh, they chant like so many rounds, I can't, and then something like that.
Okay, so in spiritual life, this person is doing this much, right? I wish I could do that much. Okay, that can be done negatively. But also in general, right? Like, actually our world moves around comparison. You know, people buy things with money, people buy things they don't have, with money they don't have, to please people they don't even like. Right? Wrap your head around that. That's the nature of the world of comparison. It's so much about, I am not happy until I think that you think I'm greater than you. That's when comparison becomes a problem. And so, if you're someone that likes clarity like me, comparison is good as a functional necessity, right? As one of the things you use of many things to understand where you are. Comparison is not good as the primary medium of defining something. It's not a definition, right? As soon as comparison becomes the way you define something, it's hugely problematic. It's so problematic, right? Because you base your whole value on something that's not you. And so, coming back to finance, I don't know how many people are even into finance, but maybe by the end of this talk, we'll get more people into it. When you value a firm, there's different methods you use. Sometimes you value a company based off its own financials, and sometimes you value a company based off other comparable companies. And so there is like, you need a balance between the two to get a healthy value. And that's the same for individuals as well, right? When you're comparing, you can compare in order to learn, as you were saying, positive comparison, as one of the things that helps in understanding where you should go. But if the only thing you use to define your worth, your happiness, everything is just comparison, highly probable, you'll never become happy because you'll live for other people and you'll lose yourself in doing so. So this is quite an important thing to keep in mind. You might think, how's this got anything to do with resolutions and revolutions? Does anyone know or want to try and define, and there's no right answers, what a resolution is? Or like when you say, I'll make a New Year's resolution, what is a resolution? Actually, I'm gonna pick an area because you were there at the other talk we did on resolutions. How do you define a resolution?
Something that you can change, something positive that you can like use to change yourself and improve yourself.
Okay, so a commitment to a positive change. Anything else that anyone wants to add? It's okay, you can be wrong, there's no problem. Yeah?
Learning something new.
Doing something new, learning something new. Okay.
A target or a goal that you want to achieve by the end of the year.
Okay, so a target or a goal that you set to try and commit to achieve.
Promise
A promise. That's interesting. Promise to who?
to yourself.
To yourself. Yeah.
An answer to a problem that you had in the last year.
An answer to the problem you had previously. So you reflect back and then you think, how can I do it differently? Very nice. Very good. Anything else? Any thoughts? What is, when you say like you resolve to do something, you take a resolution, what are you actually doing? A promise to yourself is very nice. Reflecting is also very nice. Commitment. Very good. Is that it? There's a lot more. It's okay. Do you have any thoughts?
I was just going to say, fix a problem that you had in the last
Okay.
year.
So as a means of solution.
Yeah.
Right. Very different approaches, but I like them all. A promise, a commitment, a learning process, a solution. These are all nice. You know, resolutions are very important because we don't have times where you're randomly inspired, right? I'm not going to go into philosophy, but inspiration and motivation is very weird. It's just random thing that comes out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, you're just motivated. You're hyped. You want to do something. And New Year's acts as a time where you can be motivated. And so it's very beneficial to take resolutions because any inspiration, we can use it in a positive way. We recently had a talk where we were discussing kind of which direction you should go in life and how do you know what the right direction is. I won't go through that talk again, but we talked a little bit about how scriptural wisdom provides direction and guidance for us, and other saintly people, the way they live their lives, that also helps us. And so when we take a resolution, if we have the right direction, then inspiration and motivation acts as a way of pushing, right? Getting the initial momentum. then of course you need discipline or consistency. But discipline is quite hard. How many of you think discipline is easy? No one? Not even Ramesh? Ramesh is very disciplined. No one thinks discipline is easy? What is it about discipline that is very difficult? There's something about it that's extremely difficult.
You have to have control, like full control of like.
It feels like you have to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's like almost an unachievable goal. Yeah.
You have to be consistent when you're disciplined.
Yeah.
Which is very hard to do, especially when on some days you feel tired.
You just can't be bothered.
You just can't.
Yeah. You just can't be bothered sometimes. It's very hard to develop.
You have to give up a lot of like in the moment happiness.
Yeah, that's great. It's a really difficult thing to do. You know, can I expose you?
Yeah, come on.
This morning, Bhakti just wasn't waking up early today, and like, you know, in Tirupati, when you want to wake up the deities, you bring an elephant in, and that's really what it felt like we had to do this morning to wake her up. And so, you know, reciting mantras and, you know, do a massive kirtan, banging cymbals. It was quite difficult. But it happens, right? And she was just like, what was your excuse? I'm tired, it's cold outside, you know, the bed's nice and warm. So it happens. And, you know, I think you woke up 4 out of 7 days early this week, right? Maybe 5. 5. 2 days, 2 days you missed. The New Year's Day and today morning, yeah. So that's all exposed now. But it happens, right? And like, you know, you just can't be bothered in that moment. So summoning energy out of nowhere is very difficult. Being disciplined is very difficult. But there are ways that you can overcome that. Do you remember any of them, Arya?
Yeah, like do it with somebody, make a commitment so you can't back out because you said with somebody else.
Yeah. So that's like one of the biggest ones. When you make a commitment, do it with someone. So for example, my best friend is Balaram, and we have a Notion page together where we've made our commitments for 2024, and we can both see the commitments of the other person, and we can both we can hold each other accountable, but also in an encouraging way, right? Because we're best friends, so we can always see and be like, you know, you said you were going to do that. It's like July, you've not even started. So it'll help you. It keeps you accountable, and also not just association, but having people around you that are in a similar direction makes it very, very easy for you. Even if they're not better than you at that thing. And if they are better than you in that field, then it's even easier. Right? Like, I was telling, I think I said it on the day, I wasn't so interested in going gym. I would always do like indoor workouts. But because one of my close friends is always in the gym, he just like takes me with him, and I don't have to think actually about what to do because he's there, and he just helps me out throughout. And because I have him there, then that means I set a time in the day, like okay, 6 p.m. we'll go to the gym together. It means that I'll set a commitment, you know, throughout my week. I'll make time, I'll create space. I can't just cancel and say sorry, I've got work to do, right? And because it's only 2 of us, if I say no for some reason, it's really bad, right? If there's like 10 people in a group and one person misses, it's not that bad. But if there's only 2 people, then it creates a lot of accountability. And so accountability helps in consistency, and also having someone there with you also makes it very easy. So that's very important. This is mentioned very clearly throughout Shastra, repeatedly. Association. You were saying vitamin A. It's the most important thing. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, Sangha Sanjayate Kama, that your desires are born from the people that you associate with. So if you associate with people trying to go in the same direction as you, it makes your life so much easier. So I always say when people want to take resolutions, just make one of your resolutions that I'm going to make just one friend. You don't have to make 50, just one. I'm going to make one very good spiritual friend this year. Right? Like that's all that you really need. Because when they're there, they will push you, they'll help you grow, they'll support you in the times of difficulty, they'll push you in your times of complacency. Right? They act as a correcting medium, a balancing support. So it's very, very nice. So association. Anything else? Pranav, you were there as well, right? Do you remember anything else? Association was the most important thing. There was...
Does that make it difficult to break the thing? and then easy to do the thing.
Okay, yeah. So you've actually remembered all the points in the talk. It's quite impressive. So we talked about you need to have the right direction. Motivation is great, but discipline is required. Discipline comes from association, and the other thing that you can do is make it hard for you to go against your word. There's a variety of ways you can do it. Let's say there's a bartender, right? And this guy's an alcoholic, and he takes a New Year's resolution, I'm going to give up alcohol. Will he be able to do it? Realistically. No. Why?
Because he's working in the bar.
Because he's working in the bar where he's around alcohol all the time and other people around him are drinking. So he's going to most likely break his commitment. Right? Whereas let's say the bar is 25 minutes away from his house. It's more realistic. Because if he wants to quickly grab alcohol, in that moment, you know when you have those moments where desire really becomes very strong and you just can't think of anything else, like, I really want to eat chocolate right now, or something like that, when the desire is very strong, that moment doesn't last 25 minutes. So by the time he gets in the car, he's going to turn around and come back. Because you'll be able to have other things that kick in otherwise. So along with association, making it difficult is the other thing that helps make sure our resolutions are stuck to. And these things are mentioned throughout the Gita, different verses, different things. In the 3rd and 4th chapter, as well as the 6th chapter, it talks a lot about repression, and like setting unrealistic goals, and then you're always thinking about them. So then there's no point, because you're always desiring that I want this, I want that. If you just set a more realistic goal and then work towards it, it's better. And regulation is therefore required, so instead of repression, regulation is what's recommended. Take baby steps, It's not that, it's kind of, I know we do it when we're motivated, but it's a bit of a silly thing to do. We go, this time I'm going to do this. And we create some kind of master plan, and we kind of dream about how we're going to do the best in the exam, and we're going to get the top in the country, and the Prime Minister's going to give you an award or something like that, right? I don't want to break your dreams, but just be realistic, right? Dreaming big is fine. The problem is the time period that people set, not dreams. I don't think dreams are unrealistic. The goals are often realistic, it's just that you expect to become like Einstein after you've just been failing your exams. It's not possible, right? And so having realistic timeframes is quite important. So resolutions are important, they're good things to do, and if you have people around you and you create the right facilities, you'll be able to follow it. So along with resolution, something I want to talk about is revolution as well. A lot of resolutions are very much inward focused, and that's not a bad thing. It's important to help ourselves and help oneself. But at some part of our life and some part of our energy, we should dedicate to helping other people as well, right? Otherwise we become selfish. It's actually why people that meditate sometimes are more selfish than people that don't meditate. Just think about that for a second. That's weird, isn't it? People that meditate are more selfish than people that don't sometimes. And the reason for that is because they just focus on themselves. They just focus on how I can improve, and that's it. Does anyone need convincing that it's important to help other people? No, you can be honest. There's a lot of valid points to say why I don't think it is. Okay, I'll be the devil's advocate. I think that when you help other people, what can happen is you end up not giving time and energy to yourself. What would you say to that? Yes.
You can help other people with a regulation so that you help yourself and you help other people.
Okay, so in helping others, you don't lose yourself. Anything else, Ramesh?
I think when we help others, we can only maximum get them to our level. So I think we should be in a suitable level too. If
Right.
That makes sense.
So like if I'm teaching you maths, right? I can only bring you to my standard of maths. I won't be able to teach you theorems and problems and integrations that I can't solve, right? So I can only bring someone to my level. So if I want to help other people, I also have to focus on myself. Okay, that's good. Anyone else? In helping others, I lose myself. Okay, I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up. Think about in your own life, times that you try to go out of your way to help other people. Right? Sometimes successful. Majority of the time, what happened? You were walked on. You not only lost time for yourself, but the other person stabbed you in the back later on. Things like that. So why should you help others? I'm gonna stop picking on people. Why should we? Have you ever had that experience when you help someone else and they kind of don't really help you in the end? They don't really take care of you. They neglect you. Should you help other people? It's fine. You don't know? That's fine. What do you think?
Yeah, we need to help.
You should still help?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
Because it gives others happiness, self-happiness you get by.
Okay. So,
So yeah.
okay, that's very nice. So it provides you a more deeper sense of fulfillment. Very nice. Richard.
Kind of like it helps, but you're not really losing anything apart from time. Like
Sure.
when you
Well,
help,
sometimes.
yeah, sometimes, but like whenever if I ever help someone, it's like a question, but I've not really lost anything there, have I?
Mm.
So like if I'm helping them, I'm helping myself one, and if I do help them, it's good for them as well. So like
Okay.
you're not really losing anything.
You're not losing anything. Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go on.
Sometimes when you help the other person, you also build up kind of expectations from that person, and the other person is not being able to meet those. There's just a little disappointment which can also affect maybe later on your relationship with that person.
Okay, so when you help someone, there can be a natural expectation created. I don't think that's unnatural. I've gone out of my way to help someone else, then naturally they should create some time. We'd expect. And they don't meet that,
Yeah.
and that causes problems.
Yes, a chance of disappointment.
So, should you not help people? What's actually causing the pain in that situation? It's not the helping the person. It's having the expectation, right? And so, when we help, a lot of the way we're wired is very selfish. Look, I'll make it very clear to you. Let's say there's a 5-year-old boy, he comes and he punches you. What are you going to do? Are you going to, drop kick him? You might want to, but are you going to do it? No. Who said yeah? Is that you? Let's say Haridev comes into the room. From that room, he comes into this room, and he just comes to you, no money, just whacks you in the face as hard as he can. What are you going to do? Are you going to punch him back?
No.
No? Are you going to slap him really hard?
No.
Harry, what are you going to do? You look like you're going to slap him.
What?
Why would you not slap him?
Because he's a kid. He doesn't
Because
know.
he's a kid. He doesn't know. In other words, when there's a significant strength that you have, it doesn't matter when the other kid hits. You don't feel like, it's going to cause any problem. Now, let's say Ramesh comes and hits you. What are you doing? You're running. Right? It's different. So, because Ramesh is strong, right, relative to you. In that same way, actually, the reasons for people hitting us, causing pain, is actually due to a lack of inner strength. When we become very strong, especially by practicing spiritual life, you become very strong. And so, no matter who spiritually, someone emotionally hits you, it's fine. You'll be able to deal with that, because you develop that kind of strength. Right? Where a 5-year-old boy hits you. It's annoying, yes, but is it going to cause you pain? Not really. You'll be able to get over it. Right? And there's the same thing in spiritual life. One of the functions that the Gita does is it acts like a muscle. As a muscle. Because it provides you that inner strength. I'm trying to remember the verse, it's not coming to mind now. It's near the end of the 18th chapter. But it says that one who worships me, one who reads this Gita, studies it, adyeshyate cha yadimam dharmam sambadamavayo jnana yagnena tenaham ishtabhyami shimemati. That one who studies this Gita worships me by their intelligence. Then their intelligence becomes very strong. And then when their intelligence becomes strong, they don't get affected by the smaller things that come here. Right? If you go to a person that's living in Gaza, right, to a 5-year-old boy, and you say, I'm not going to give you this balloon, do you think he's going to be worried, upset that you didn't give him a balloon? Why? He's got bigger problems to deal with, right? So in that same way, when you see the bigger picture in life, you realize a lot of the problems I think are problems, they're minuscule compared to the actual problems I'm facing. Right? I have fundamental problems because I don't look at my inner world. I neglect a part of reality which I should not neglect. And that's actually kind of, I'm not going to go into that detail too much, but that's where helping people becomes very easy. And you'll be able to constantly help others in that way. The stronger you become, you'll be able to constantly reach out and help others. I was going to pull up a verse, but we don't have a tech for that now. Srila Prahlad Maharaj. How many of you have heard of Prahlad Maharaj? Okay. So for those who haven't, I'll quickly narrate. In Satya Yuga, one of the earlier ages, there is a demon named Hiranyakashipu, and he has a son who is a devotee called Prahlad. And Prahlad is a devotee of Lord Vishnu. And Hiranyakashipu tries to kill his own son in so many ways. He's only a 5-year-old boy. He tries to trample him under an elephant. He tries to feed him poisoned food. He tries to burn him in fire with halika. He tries to boil him in boiling oil. He tries to, get daityas, demons, to stab him with tridents. And he went through so many difficulties. Okay, and constantly throughout his difficulties, he remembered the Lord. And at one point in time, the Lord appears as Narasimhadev. It's like an emergency incarnation, right? Out of nowhere. There's no parents and this and that. Just appears out of a pillar, and he destroys Hiranyakashipu. Later on, when Prahlad Maharaj is offering prayers to Narasimhadev, he says this very beautiful verse. Rayena deva munaya svavamukti kama maunam charanti vijanena paratanishta etan vihaya kripana vimumuksha heto nanyam tvadanya sharanam brahmato nupashe. He says that I do not wish, my dear Lord, to be like those saintly persons that travel to the Himalayas and live in a cave. I don't simply wish to be silent and focus on myself, neglecting the welfare of others. Instead, I want to go to the cities, the towns and the villages and help others, because I know that they're lacking spiritual life. They're lacking spiritual wisdom. So I want to provide that for them so that their life can be uplifted. And they can be, they can get clarity. They won't be stuck in this kind of distress. And so it's very, deeply ingrained in the mind of one who is actually trying to spiritually progress, about the welfare of everyone, not just themselves. And the difficulties that we experience when helping others is not due to the others. It's actually due to ourselves. Why should someone else cause you a misery? Think about it. You're not sad because someone did something to you. You're sad because you wanted something from them. Right? You expected something from them. You're not upset because this and that happened to you. You're upset because you have certain expectations. It's actually expectations that cause misery and happiness. I don't know, is anyone here interested in comedy? No? Somewhat, okay. So, does everyone know what a one-liner is? Right? How does a one-liner work? You have the setup, and then you have a punchline. The reason you become happy, or you feel joy, is because the setup sets your expectations somewhere. And the punchline completely shifts it. Right? It's just an expectation. You just create an expectation, and then you do something different, and then it creates happiness. And it's the same thing for misery. You have an expectation that you set, and it's not met, and then you create problems. So it's actually attachment to our expectations which causes us difficulty. So it's not helping others. But more important than that, now that we've looked a little bit at how we can stick to our own inner resolve, how we can help others, is how do we actually help others? How can we actually help someone else? How can we create that revolution in society at large? Right? Of all these nice things, tolerance, peace, kindness, all those lovey-dovey things. How can that actually become reality in society at large? that happens when we focus on the thing that we're missing right now. When Srila Prabhupada begins the Srimad Bhagavatam, he writes, we must understand the present need of human society. Human society has progressed so much in technology, right? In telecommunication, in transport, so many facilities that we've improved on. Actually, speaking of revolutions, Manchester is home to the biggest economic revolution in recent history. Does anyone know what it is?
The industrial.
Yeah, the Industrial Revolution. I had a whole module last year just about the Industrial Revolution. It's crazy. When you look at the graph, here's the graph, okay? You can just imagine it. Economic growth in history from the Middle Ages, 1500s, is always like that. And then out of nowhere, it just shoots up like this, right? It's dramatic. The way it's just so flat. And then the Industrial Revolution happens, right? Sometime here. And it just goes like that. And ever since then, it's been going really high. So the Industrial Revolution is huge economically. And there was technological progress from it. Manchester was the home of a lot of that. But technology has progressed, but are people becoming happier? You have improved facilities, that's no doubt. Are people become happier? No. Because happiness is not correlated with technological advancement. I've seen people in the poorest villages in India far more joyful than people that live in mansions. What actually brings happiness is spiritual wisdom. The reason we feel unhappy is because we're missing that part of our life where we look inwards, right? But just looking inwards and not helping other people look inwards also is not enough. So we have to also help other people look inwards. And that's why what we do is we act as a positive kind of light in others' lives as well. It's not some light which is enclosed in a cave, only helps us and then helps someone else. But you want to turn the light on so that everyone can see. And then they're also going to turn their own lights on so even more people can see. So that everyone that comes into contact with you, they should look at you and they should say, what an amazing person, right? They helped me so much. They gave me so much clarity. And Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the greatest revolution, which is the one that we actually need. It's explained 1.5.11 is the verse reference, 1.5.11. Tadvag visargo janataga viplava. Viplava means revolutionary, transformation. It's stated that those words of spiritual wisdom create the biggest revolution because what they do is they create a revolution of consciousness. They completely change your perspective, right? They make you so much kinder in your dealings with others. They provide you so much philosophical clarity, practical wisdom. You get practical skills, you get philosophical clarity. And not only that, through the words of scripture, of Shastra, what you also get is you get the love that the heart is always seeking for. That's also fulfilled. The deepest desire of the individual. After forgetting Krishna, we've really lost and we try to find our happiness in so many places. But when you understand that, your connection with God, that you have a special relationship with Krishna, then you become very happy. And so the revolution we want to create is not a revolution of technology alone. Not just science, not just, climate change protests. The revolution we want to create is one of spiritual wisdom. It's a revolution of consciousness. And His Holiness KCSoc beautifully writes that global revolutions begin with inner resolutions. Global revolutions begin with inner resolutions. One has to actually transform their lives if they want to go and help in transforming the lives of the world. And so, scripture is very fascinating because what it does is it provides us that wisdom, it provides us those facilities. I mean, I'm not going to go into the philosophy of it too much, but it's so wonderful in doing that. And so when you help other people understand this literature, not just by whacking a book, doesn't make a difference. If you just give a book and that's it, bye-bye. It's not very good. It's nice, but it's not in and of itself enough, right? If I choose some Gita and it just has Bhagavad Gita, Sanskrit, and I give that to someone, will it make a difference in their life? No. If I have Sanskrit and English translation, maybe they'll be able to understand a little bit. But what you need is a book as well as the explanation, right? And so I can give you a book without an explanation, it will make very little difference. If I give you a book with explanation so that you can understand it, it'll be very easy, right? If I get, I don't know, Newton's book, right? Drishti studies physics. So if I bring Drishti a book, of like, this is Newton's book. What books did Newton write, do you know? I can't think of any. I think La Voltaire, no. Optics. Optics is one of his famous books. Okay, so if I just bring optics, you'll be like, this is great, it's all Latin, I don't understand a single word, right? I can bring it with some English translation, but that also wouldn't help. What's better? What's the easy? Practical, right? You want to see Newton's demonstrations, you know, the good old prism and the rainbow, you want to see that in real life. Just hearing about it doesn't make any difference, right? Real difference comes when you see it. So if you want to transform people, you have to provide the wisdom, the books along with the explanations. And if possible, try as well to exemplify in your own life what those books talk about. And then help others as well. Right? Because then that will actually create transformation. If you look at a lot of your spiritual lives, a lot of people that are really inspired by the books, and I mean, without them you don't have anything. The books are the basis. But to catalyze that process, that reaction of spiritual life, you need to also have living examples that bring the books to life. It's not just wisdom that dies, it's wisdom that breathes. Right? Kesha Maharaj loves that phrase, wisdom that breathes. It's very important that this is something dynamic. And one of the best things about spiritual life is it's not a compartmentalized thing. Right? So it's not that there's just this part of your life which is spiritual. It's not that you come to the temple and you're spiritual and then you're back at school, you're back in your education and you're working as a physiotherapist or whatever, and that's all material. That's not the way it is. Right? Because when you understand spiritual life, you realize it's not that I'm just a student, I'm a spiritual student. I'm not just a doctor, I'm a spiritual doctor. I'm not just an economist, I'm a spiritual economist. Spirituality might take various forms, but it exists all throughout your life. It's not some compartmentalized process, but it's something that breaks boundaries and exists everywhere. And it's very important that we actually try and understand that. I won't go too much into what the philosophy concludes with and what important tenets it has, because there's so much that it has. But I want to share just one practical thing to create revolution, and it's the power of sound. Okay? So a resolution that you can take in your life, and a revolution that you can try and create in this year, is to try and practice implementing this into your own personal routine, and trying to give it to someone else. And that is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Now, this is not a session about the power of sound, so I'm not going to go into it, on the power of mantra meditation. But it's very, very powerful. And when we actually chant this Maha Mantra, we will see great transformation in our consciousness. So the mantra is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. It's explained, Sarva Vedanta Saram. It's all, the whole Vedanta is in that mantra. And if one actually chants properly, then you will see over time how your life changes. You create a gap between stimulus and response. It's not as soon as a desire comes, I have to do it. You're able to control yourself. And you also see how your consciousness changes. And this is not a theory, because what happens in the life of Srila Prabhupada is the most beautiful thing. Srila Prabhupada came to the West at the age of 69. An Indian sannyasi, he didn't know anything about Western culture and Western tradition. He was well educated, but more importantly, he was very educated in the language of Shastra, the points of philosophy of Shastra, and the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. No managerial techniques, no MBAs, nothing. He didn't have a certain promotion style, etc. All he did was he presented the work of the ancient scriptures in a way that's relevant and useful in the lives of other people. And he went to hippies. Hippies are like drug addicts that are like, you know, like the final level of drug addiction. That's what you call a hippie. He went to hippies and took those people and gave them spiritual life. And they went from hippies to gurus, to acharyas, to people that had complete control of all their senses, to people that had complete control of their desires, people that could actually transform and revolutionize others as well. And so this is not a theoretical, philosophy. It's not just a theoretical philosophy, it's not just a practical, pragmatic action. It combines both together, theory and practice, and it creates a very sustainable way of living that revolutionizes one's life and the lives of others. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,